The upcoming event will begin in 5 minutes. Please take your seats and switch your phones to silent mode.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pavis Devahasadin, Communication Officer from IMF Communication Department. I would like to welcome everyone here in this room and our online audience to the press conference of the Intergovernmental Group of 24 on International Monetary Affairs and Development, or G24. Before we begin, I would like to remind you that we have simultaneous translation in English, French, and Spanish. It is my honor to introduce the distinguished panel at this table. The chair of the Minister of the G24 at the center is Mr. Pablo Quirino, Secretary of Finance of Argentina. To his right is Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Olawale Adun, Nigeria's Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. To the left of Mr. Chair is Second Vice Chair, Mr. Jamil Ahmed, Governor of the State Bank of Pakistan. And of course, at the other end of the table is the Director of G24 Secretariat, Ms. Iyabo Masha. Without further ado, may I invite Mr. Quirino to give some remarks. Mr. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pavis. Dear members of the press, I would like to extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you as we gather for this press conference. You have at your disposal our comprehensive communiqué and press release encapsulating the discussions held today. Allow me to briefly highlight the key takeaways. We're witnessing a major transition in how the global economy works, and processes of change such as these always involve intervals of great volatility and uncertainty. Our communiqué reflects that the recent economic developments have driven uncertainty to elevated levels. In this context, emerging market and developing economies have faced additional challenges stemming from both external conditions and domestic factors. On the external front, many EMDs continue to face elevated public debt levels and rising debt servicing burdens. The prevailing environment of still tight global financial conditions is exacerbating these challenges, constraining fiscal space, and forcing difficult trade-offs between repaying creditors and investing in critical areas for productivity, growth, and development. This also represents a risk to macroeconomic stability as debt maturities and rising debt service payments hinder fiscal consolidation plans which are necessary to tackle domestic imbalances, maintain price stability, and foster a stable macroeconomic environment and for investment and growth. On the domestic front, weak fiscal fundamentals are at the core of macroeconomic instability, while many of us face long-standing structural policy challenges that hold back productivity and competitiveness. The building up of external and fiscal imbalances amid public spending pressures that exceed revenues and with constrained access to international financial markets further erodes macroeconomic stability. Furthermore, domestic environments perceived as unsafe for investment, dominated by overly complex legislation and inefficient and burdensome tax systems, add to macroeconomic instability to further discourage much-needed private capital inflows. As stated in the communiqué, domestic policy making is the first line of defense. The best way to enhance short-term domestic responsiveness as well as medium-term growth capacity is through solid macroeconomic frameworks combined with clear rules that foster a predictable environment for private investment. Pivoting to our fiscal consolidation to set debt on a sustainable path and rebuild buffers while advancing with productivity-enhancing market-oriented structural reforms must remain priorities for the domestic policy making. Whereas doing so while maintaining social cohesion and protecting the most vulnerable can be challenging, it can be achieved with careful policy calibration. But as these measures may take some time to deliver, mobilizing sufficient international support is also crucial to help countries meet their financing needs, while they navigate the waters towards a healthier economy. The Bretton Woods institutions remain crucial, necessitating decisive actions to fortify the global financial safety net and broaden development finance. The IMF's role as a centerpiece of the global financial safety net is vital in addressing multilateral challenges and supporting vulnerable countries. We appreciate the IMF's recent reforms to better support EMDs, such as the recent review of the charges and surcharges policies. However, countries with limited access to affordable short-term and crisis-related liquidity continue to face vulnerabilities. It is essential to address liquidity pressures and strengthen crisis prevention and response capabilities, including enhancing existing financial safety nets. Surveillance on internal and external stability should be intensified, including on spillover effects from systematically important countries. The World Bank has made progress in implementing the Evolution Program, but further progress is required in operationalizing key aspects of the framework of financial incentives and reducing IBRD loan pricing. Faster implementation of the remaining G20 independent experts group's recommendations on MDB reforms is needed, including mitigating currency risks through local currency lending and domestic capital market reforms, de-risking private sector investment, and increasing capital within the WBG and across the MDB system. Swift progress on the 2025 shareholder review is necessary to address misalignments, strengthen voice and representation, enhance IBRD legitimacy, and ensure equitable voting power. In sum, the path to shock-proof and steady growing economy is multifaceted. We must do our part and commit to strengthen fiscal and monetary frameworks, build robust institutions, and embrace structural reforms that promote competitiveness, productivity gains, and job creation. But at the same time, we need global financial institutions that recognize domestic efforts and are willing and well prepared to step up for these countries. Thank you, and with these remarks, I'm now ready to entertain your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we begin the Q&A section, I kindly ask that all questions remain within the scope of G24's mandate and responsibilities. Other questions outside of its purview, of course, should be raised during the regional press conferences that are going to be taking place in coming days. And please kindly identify yourself, your organization, your news outlet, and specify to whom your questions would like to be addressing. With that, any questions? Yes, sir.
Yep. Good morning to everybody. My name is Fabrice Naudet-Langlois from the French newspaper Le Figaro based in Paris. President Kirno, you just said that the Bretton Woods institutions are crucial. Does any of you feel that their role, their functioning is endangered currently? Thank you for answering this question.
Thank you.
I think globally we are facing a period of volatility and uncertainty. And as such, the Bretton Woods institutions are crucial in providing the safety net and the channels of communication that remain open among the different countries that participate on those institutions. And I think the role is very, very important. And we don't see them. I mean, we are always rebalancing their role and their task, and that's something that's a process that we do constantly. At the end of the day, the role is vital, is very important, and we don't see them at risk, as you put.
Mr. Minister Adon.
Thank you. I think I agree with the chair that there's nothing that we have heard that says that the Bretton Woods institutions stand ready to do anything other than, on the one hand, provide safety net, on the other hand, continue to provide development finance. If anything, at this time of heightened global uncertainty, what we have heard from them is that they stand ready and very much willing and capable to help countries to navigate this particular time and to continue to encourage good policy making, to encourage resilience, building of buffers, and effectively staying the course for those who are actually on a path that will take them further along the road to growth, development, and reduction of poverty.
Thank you. Governor Ahmed or Ms. Masha would like to add anything?
No, it's okay. I think fully agreed with the views expressed by the chair and the vice chair. I think in the increased uncertainty and the prevailing situation, it has become much more important for the Bretton Woods institutions to continue to play their role, and particularly as financial safety net providers and also as the development partners. I think they have a role which will continue to be there, and they will be contributing in performance of their role previous, which they have been doing previously. So fully agree.
Thank you. And Ms. Masha?
Yes, we believe that the organizations are very useful, and the usefulness is very much appreciated. And so we don't have any uncertainty about their continued relevance. And we do hope that whatever actions countries are taking, the advanced economies are taking, they will factor into their decision the very good usefulness of these organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Going back to the floor, any question? Right here, lady in glasses.
Hi, this is Mariam Ali from Dawn News TV in Pakistan. My question is for Mr. Jameel Ahmed. What steps is the State Bank of Pakistan taking? Is it engaging with other central banks to mitigate risk, particularly in the G24 framework? Thank you.
So I think, as initially said, that if there is any specific questions pertaining to the State Bank, we can discuss during the separate conferences which we have. But for the time being, since we are in the G20 platform, so we are coordinating with the other central banks, and we discussed all these issues during the yesterday's deputies meeting as well as today's meeting also of the G20 finance ministers and governors, and all the issues which are faced by the G20 members have been thoroughly discussed, and a joint stance has been agreed upon. And this is what is contained in the draft, in the communique which is being issued today.
Thank you. And going back to the floor, maybe in the mid-section, I saw some hands. I'll start with you in the black. Thank you. And we're going to work our way back. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Amaravati from AFP. So I have a couple of questions for everyone here. First of all, how concerned are your members about the fallout from tariffs, and what are they trying to do to try and mitigate the impact? Also, are you planning to work more closely with each other, for instance, increasing trade with each other? And lastly, specifically, are you planning on working more closely with China, for instance?
Just to add to that, I got an advanced question from Sufik Frasan, New First Sri Lanka. In the light of reciprocal tariff currently in place, what strategy is the G24 considering as a working group to alleviate the pressure on emerging economies? So that's related to your question as well. So, Mr. Chair. Yeah.
Thank you for the questions. I think that it's important to understand that the G24 is a very diverse group of countries, and each of one has its own peculiarities and strengths and weaknesses in the midst of the current trade situation. So, in general, what I would say is that the fallout of this uncertainty that we're facing creates more volatility. And as emerging market countries and developing countries, what you face is a situation in which, in addition to the trade tensions, what you have is a situation on the capital markets, on the capital flows, things that are, based on the uncertainty. What happens is, flows are expecting a solution. As one of the members said today, we can deal with good news, we can deal with bad news. We need to know what to do under uncertainty. As we're going through this process of trade negotiations globally, and as definitions are set, then we will know how to react. In the meantime, as we said in the communique, and as we said in my opening remarks, the first line of defense, the thing that is within our country's control, is our own domestic agenda. We need to earn resilience into our own economies, bring resilience into our own economies in such a way that we have a fiscal path that is credible, that we have sound monetary policies as well that back that fiscal consolidation program. Because at the end of the day, that's what investors are looking at. Investors are looking at, their own, the different countries' situation and see how they can cope with this level of uncertainties. We have faced different crises in the past, globally, pandemic being the last one, and we have, as a collective number of countries, been able to achieve a level of resilience that is very good. I mean, that resilience is being tested once again, and that's why we also need to work in conjunction among the different countries, not only G24, but in a global context, to address these situations. But I think the homework also needs to be consolidated at home in order to then continue moving forward. And as such, we are also obviously fostering, our trade relationships among the different countries. We are doing it among the G24, among G20. So there are various areas of cooperation and consolidation there as well.
Any perspective from Ms. Masha in terms of coordination and collaboration across nations?
Well, I think the chair has pointed out some of those issues regarding macroeconomic stability. That is, when these shocks manifest, the need for fiscal policies, sound monetary policies. But more longer term, it also provides opportunities for countries to pivot towards a different development pathway, maybe going into sectors that are going to satisfy domestic demand and will make them less prone to external shocks, and diversifying their markets, their different markets, so that they can better cope with the future tariff or trade policies. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going back to the floor. I see hands right there all the way in the back, that lady in beige, and then we come back to the front. Kemi. Yeah.
Thank you for taking our questions. A question for everyone, sort of piggybacking off of my colleague's question on tariffs. How does the G24 weigh the inflationary risks versus risks of recession from the current tariff environment? And then one for the Argentina Secretary. You spoke about debt maturities and rising debt payments. More than 4 billion in debt is coming due for Argentina in July, right after an ambitious reserve target accumulation from the IMF. How does Argentina plan to confront those payments? And is there a target that it's looking at to return to capital markets? Thank you.
In terms of the first question related to inflationary pressures and related to the trade situation, I think it is, we had this morning the World Economic Outlook conference, in which we had details on that perspective. But I think also it is very early to tell on how this is going to, at the end of the day, be moving forward. So we're not in the business. I mean, at least I'm not in the business of projecting inflation, even in my own country. So very difficult to try to project inflationary pressures on a global basis. But I think it's, as I said before, I mean, we are living in uncertain times. We expect that trade negotiations that are currently underway reach a good point that is satisfactory for everyone involved, and we normalize trade flows from that perspective onwards. In terms of Argentina, I mean, despite the fact that it's a common theme throughout the G24, what we're trying to do in Argentina for the last 15 months is basically gain our credibility back, and as such, we have elected a very conservative and orthodox approach to the problems that Argentina had, and one of the problems that Argentina had was on the fiscal front, and we have done a tremendous fiscal consolidation. We put our house in order on the monetary front as well, and that track record is the one that will put us in a path to regaining market access eventually. Having said that, from my perspective, as the CFO of the country, what I can say is that we work at it very conservatively. I'm not assuming that I will be able to, that Argentina will be able to re-access markets at a given time, but we have certainty that the maturities are coming due, and that's why we have worked in the past in showing our willingness to pay. We have honored all our commitments. We have now a new IMF program which has started to work very well as expected, and in addition to that, because of that, conservative look, we have already accumulated reserves, and the Treasury has bought a significant amount of dollars that it has at the central bank to honor those obligations. So we don't expect we won't speculate about when Argentina will be able to reaccess international markets. When those will happen, when that situation happens, we will address it. But in the meantime, we still work as if we have no access and we have to pay down our obligations as we did in these last 15 months.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see 3 remaining hands, but we'll come back to the front with the lady in the brown jacket first, and then we go to that side of the room. I see 2 hands. Yeah. And please keep your questions short. We have limited time. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, good morning. Kemi Oshikoya with the Africa Bazaar magazine. My question is regarding, I know the headline right now is regarding tariff and sovereign debt. My question is regarding, we've seen the U.S. cut back on some of the financings that it gives to developing economy. So in terms of financing the Sustainable Development Goal as well as climate action, could you talk about some of the challenges there?
Are your questions related to climate, so we can collect them both at the same time? Okay. Anyone on climate here?
I mean, we face several challenges, and as such, for that, many countries rely on the World Bank, the IMF, to basically be able to develop tools to finance that development, to finance climate action, to finance infrastructure. And as such, we are at a period in which, countries have to balance that, in turn with their own macroeconomic situation in that respect. We have many of our countries in the G24 have significant natural resources that need to be developed. Okay, those are the ones that are part of transition energy, for example, and those are situations in which when you cannot access private financing, the role of development financing in terms of climate, in terms of energy transition, etc., is very, very important. But those are challenges that are on the table that we need to address, and we are addressing together as a group and as an individual countries as well.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to the floor. Gentleman right here, and we can go all the way back to you, sir.
All right, 2 questions. I'm Rufai Hosseini from Nigeria Rise TV. I'm coming to you, sir. Yes, you brought back fiscal discipline to Argentina, but can you quantify the harmful effect on the lives of the citizens? And that's what we don't talk about. The strikes, the protests, the fact that people don't have money in their pockets. Secondly, you also talked about building resilience. But how do we build resilience where most of the countries in the G24 have one similar problem? A lot of visionless leadership, definitely, and a lot of poverty. Our arms are already tied behind our hands economically. How do you expect us to build resilience? We're just led to the slaughter slab.
Thank you. And can I go all the way back to the gentleman in the back, please?
Hi, thanks for taking my question. My name is Magnus Sherman. I'm with Octus. I wanted to touch on debt restructuring. In October, you called on the reform of the common framework, and I'm curious to know more about what sort of reform moves you've seen since then, and also what types of reforms the G24 would like to see to the common framework? Thank you.
On the first question, yeah, I hate to make reference to Argentina, but the question was directly addressed to that situation. Argentina was facing a very dire situation, 55% poverty rate before this administration took office. So the poverty levels in our country are unacceptable. And we have worked very, very strongly to do a couple of things that basically went straight to address that situation. You know, by having done our fiscal consolidation, one of the myths were that, okay, such a big adjustment, we basically reduced 5 percentage points of GDP deficit in a month, something that has not been done probably anywhere else in the world so far. But we did it because we knew that we had no alternative. And at the end of the day, what happened is that, you know, the myth is that by doing such an adjustment, you would enter into a deep recession. Argentina rebounded out of its recession that was 2.5 years long, 2 months after that fiscal consolidation. Since then, real wages have increased for 10 months straight. Poverty levels have been reduced from 54% to 38% in about a year. And economic activity has increased 6% December 24 to December 23 when we took over. It can be done. That's the message. You know, there's preoccupations before doing such a big adjustment as we did, but it pays out. You need the political will to do it. Everyone knows what needs to be done on the fiscal and monetary fronts. The books have been written about it. What happens is you need the political willingness to attack the problem, because that may hurt politicians when they make those decisions. You know, we have a very strong leadership in President Milei that it basically is the one that has said we need to go in this. And when we have done our adjustment, what he has said is we need to take care of the most vulnerable. We doubled in real terms, you know, while being able to achieve our financial surplus, we were able to double in real terms the assistance to the most vulnerable. And that is something that basically, you know, shows the amount of corruption and intermediation that was on the social plans that the national government was spending on. So now those funds have been redirected. You know, it's funny that we doubled the expenditures in real terms, but the amount that people received more than tripled, because we spent 100, you know, and we're now spending 200 in real terms. People got 60, so they received 60, and then they're receiving 200, and that is a very big realization from the most vulnerable population that they've been robbed for years. Because by maintaining fiscal consolidation, by maintaining a financial surplus, we were still able to double the assistance to the most vulnerable.
So we go to Masha on debt restructuring, because you spoke about it last time.
Debt restructuring?
Yeah, the common framework.
Oh, the common framework.
Yeah, the progress on that, yeah.
Well, I want to add a little to what the chair said in response to the question before I go to the common framework. And that's just to say that the G24 member countries, we have some of the largest economies in the world as members of G24. And the good thing is that they achieved the growth, the size of their economy, most of them over the past 2 to 3 decades, China, India, Brazil. So that takes a lot of vision. That takes a lot of implementation of the right policies. So it's not quite a visionless leadership, but they've had to take policies that enable the countries to achieve what they have been able to achieve over such a short period of time. On the common framework, where we are on the common framework is that some countries have used it, some have found it beneficial. The only complaint, well, some of the complaints we've heard about is that the process takes a very long time, and during that long time, they are not able to access the market, or they have to take some difficult decisions when they don't know how it's going to play out. And we also made that position known. The other issue is we need more participation of private market, maybe of also multilateral development banks, and also to have some precise idea of how it will play out. Some middle-income countries have asked to be part of it. That is not really in discussion now. But all in all, countries have benefited from it, but there could be more benefit. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, you would like to add anything? No. Okay, so we are at time. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, Minister Adun had an obligation, so if you have any follow-up questions, just send it to press@g-24.org. That will also be in the media advisory, how to contact G24. The communique should have been posted at imf.org, and the transcript of this press conference will be made available later. Thank you very much for joining this press conference, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you.